Hey guys, let's give it a few minutes here and then we'll go ahead and get started on the live stream tonight. Fine tuning a couple things here a little bit. So you guys don't have to see my background or anything, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, as usual, let me know where you guys are, what you guys are seeing, if you still have some flooding ongoing in your area. And what you've been going through here, and we'll talk about what is to come as we go on in through this upcoming week. Few interesting storm systems rolling through here, and of course we just went through one of the most significant flooding events really in history here across western Washington. Pretty extreme stuff, but yeah, let's go ahead and take a look here and see. There we go. Okay, I'm checking out the chat. I see some people in here now, so that is good. And hopefully you guys have been safe out there, and hopefully you remain safe. I drove around Auburn today and I was pretty shocked at how much was flooded out there. It looks like there was some pretty good flooding to the apartment complexes. I mean, a lot of the area down there in the valley was pretty, it was underwater, to be frank. I mean, there was a lot of it. And Highway 167 was underwater, some portions of it as well. Welcome everybody. Lightning expert in the house. Yeah, ground is thawed and wet. Big trees up here. You guys probably saw that graphic from the National Weather Service talking about how the saturated soils are definitely not good for tree falls. And we do have some very strong winds upcoming here. If we take a look at the satellite imagery, you can really see what's ongoing all the way back to the Hawaiian Islands. I mean, this is a perfect Pineapple Express atmospheric river. I mean, this one is coming right from Oahu and Molokai there, right towards the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, we got several rounds of some storm systems to go, and it's probably not going to be a widespread of flooding event here, but you got to be careful with saying that because there is going to be some extreme landslide potential here over the next few days. And then even a few days after any event, you still have some pretty significant landslide potential. And you have to worry about things like levees breaking. And I mean, the Howard Hanson Dam and the Mud Mountain Dam, they're releasing a lot of water. That's why some of Auburn and Kent are flooding. That's why the Green River is flooding. They're trying to keep, the levels down because if you store too much water, it can damage the dams and stuff. So they have to try to monitor that. So yeah, there could be big impacts. And again, probably 1, 2, 3 pretty windy systems rolling up through here. So Vancouver in the house, Anacortes, Beaverton, Oregon, Poulsbo, Washington. I can't even pronounce a couple of those. I don't expect that we'll see a high wind warning for the sound tonight, but I think the wind advisory is definitely a good idea. Let's back up here and we'll take a look at that. And you see the wind advisory that is in effect. There's a couple interesting things that we've been watching here on this wind advisory as well. So let's just go over some of these winds here. Let's see, I have the North American model right there. We'll just go ahead and take a look at this. So as you can see, the stronger low pressure center, or the slow pressure center, it's a modest one, but there is a pretty good pressure gradient associated with it. These are what is known as millibars in meteorology, and you're going 4 millibars here in this. Certain distances versus the millibars can tell you about how strong winds are going to be, and you can compare them versus previous systems and whatnot. But if you take a look at what's going on tomorrow, you can kind of see this pressure gradient get pretty tight as the low moves across Vancouver Island into British Columbia. And Ryan Ford, thanks for the generosity. And as you can see, as we go through the day on Monday, we're going to have a pretty good pressure gradient there. You can see the high pressure is off to the south, the low pressure across British Columbia. And then we scroll on through here on the day Monday, and you can see the pretty strong pressure rise there as well. And this is going to get some of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, Idaho, British Columbia, western Montana as well as that system moves through. And then we have another potent system rolling through here. I mean, look at this bad boy as we go on in through Tuesday night. Look at this pressure gradient racing across the area. You're talking about a 982 millibar low across the interior of British Columbia here. These tend to come in a little bit deeper than what the model shows sometimes, and that's what 18 plus 16. That's a 34 millibar low, for the 34 millibar pressure gradient from Northern California all the way into central BC. And look at this just race across the region. This very deep low, 978 millibars. Look at this pressure gradient across eastern Washington. Very impressive looking storm. And that would be on Tuesday afternoon that approaches. And as we go through Tuesday night and on through the day, Wednesday, quick moving storm, very potent winds associated with it. The HER is going hard. Yes, I see that it is. And I'm trying to compare it versus the NAM and see which one is going to bend the knee to the other. But Yeah, also some wins coming for the Willamette Valley. That's a good one. Ryan Heinzman, 1985. And that is, let's see. So yeah, there's going to be some strong winds with that system also. Lightning Expert, high winds and lightning tomorrow for the sound. And that is something that I need to check right now as well. Let's go ahead and do this. And we're going to go to severe weather. We're going to go to take a look at the CAPE associated with this next couple of systems here as well. So there we go on into the mid-8 month. There is some CAPE around there. I thought I saw the National Weather Service put out something for the potential for some thunderstorms. And as we go on in through Tuesday night into Wednesday, a little bit better instability associated with that storm system also. So if we do this and go to the high resolution model, we can actually take a look at what the forecast is for some of this lightning. And we had a new run there, the high resolution rapid refresh, otherwise known as the HRRR in the meteorological community. Put that into motion and you can see there is a little bit of that potential for some lightning as we go through the day Monday. It's interesting how the HRRR kind of each and every other step seems to kind of kick off some of this lightning and then it kind of blanks out. But as we go through the day Tuesday, let's see if it still has some more. No, not too bad. So yeah, it's not going to be widespread lightning or anything of that nature, but you can always take a look here at the National Weather Service. We'll go to forecast. Actually, let's drop back down here. We'll go to forecast and we'll go to severe weather and we will go to convective outlook. And for day 1, so this is day 2. So this goes from 17Z. This is from Monday morning through Tuesday morning. You can see that we are having some potential for thunderstorm activity there. Day 3, still again for Western Washington, and there's even a little bit of a day 1 for the immediate coastal area. But again, no severe weather forecast as far as thunderstorm activity is concerned. Puget Sound Storm Watch in the house. Welcome. Well, we'll probably get snow at some point this year for some locations. It's definitely looking better for the mountains, though. The Green River flooding in Kent Auburn is so bad, tragic. Yeah, it did not look good. I mean, there was 2-3 feet in some of the apartment complexes I drove through, and it was really hard. My son had a soccer game at Game Farm Park, and I tried to go. I wanted to go see some of the flooding, but there was no going north out of Auburn down there in the valley. You could not get anywhere. So let's go ahead and do this. I want to look at this. I want to do the European, and I want to look at the pressure map here on the 18Z that I have not looked at just yet. So there goes our system tomorrow. And again, you see the pressure gradients coming across the region. And as that system moves through, then the stronger potential system races across the area. A little bit different, well, a similar track to what the NAM is showing, but look at that impressive pressure gradient. I'll show you some of the wind speeds here in a moment, but look at that low, man, race across. Really deepens as it crosses the Rocky Mountain, get up in towards the Canadian prairies there a little bit. And this is the next system as we get on in towards the day Thursday. You can see that one approaching the coastline. That one's going to pack a punch there for the Oregon coast. That's a very good pressure gradient as well. That's 4, 8, 12, 16, 19 millibars right there as you go from, Northern California, Crescent City towards that low right off the coast of Astoria, Seaside, Oregon there. And then you move that system across the region as well. So very active 1, 2, 3 punch coming up. Yeah, so let's take a look at that. I see a lot of people talking about the wind speeds here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the surface wind, and we'll go to 10 mile per hour. Let's go to 80 meter wind speed first. Take a look at this. This is a sustained wind speed at 80 meters above the surface. And you see, as we go on in through the day tomorrow, look at the coast. Really gets windy northwest interior up into the Puget Sound, some of southwest Washington. Higher terrain of the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. Look at some of those winds ripping across the area as we go on in towards, this is about Monday on the noon hour. And let me back that up so we can go out a little bit further. And yeah, those winds are going to be with us all the way through Monday night for Eastern Washington, some of the Cascades. Then the next system starts to roll into the high resolution rapid refresh, not quite yet in range of that next system. Now we'll take a look at the wind gust swath and we will zoom in a bit here. We're going to go to Pacific Northwest, and man, the HRRR keeps showing this here for Everett, and it shows this little bit of a lead low off the northeast portion of the Olympic Mountains. What happens is the air compresses, it warms, the warm air becomes less dense, and that forms a low pressure area right there, right in the lee of the Olympic Mountains, and you get a very powerful pressure gradient there near the Hood Canal Bridge. And this isn't going to be like we had a storm in 1979. You might remember that actually sunk the Hood Canal Bridge, 100+ mile per hour winds there. It doesn't look like anything like that, but still, these can be extremely localized, strong windstorms. If we look at upper air temperature, for example, you'll see as we go on in through the day on Monday. So let's go. You can see the warmer air right here. There's that compression there and that warmer air. We're looking at about 2,500 feet up in the atmosphere. And there is what is known as the leeward low. You can clearly see how it's warmer right there and cooler at 2,500 feet. And you can also see that at 5,000 feet as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of some meteorology 101 for you. You can even see a little bit of that at 10,000 feet also. You go to 18,000 feet and it doesn't show up because the Olympic Mountains are not that tall. Now, okay, so let's take a look here. I want to look at, actually, let's go back to where were we? It was in the high resolution rapid refresh. We're going to go to surface wind again, and we're going to take an even closer look here. We're going to go to cities, and we're going to go to Seattle and zoom in a bit more. But yeah, these winds are no joke here across some of the area. The high resolution rapid refresh actually dropped some of the winds for Seattle, but still that's quite windy. Some 40s, things are saturated. Olympia maybe 48, and you can see some pretty widespread 50-mile-per-hour gusts here. Of course, this is, you know, Highway 101 getting pretty windy as well. US 12 back and forth, the coastal areas. But again, look at that right near Everett, just north of Mukilteo there. There's Whidbey Island 50 plus also, and again, Hood Canal Bridge is right there. So watch out for those very strong winds. We got people in Tacoma, Bellingham, and Raymond. Near impossible to get north out of Auburn. Yeah, I couldn't find a way, and I lived on Kent East Hill and around that area for probably 10 years. Flooding is bad around Lake Stevens. Stevens Pass had a collapse in half of the road up. Yeah, Highway 2, man, I don't know. That might take a while to fix. And that is really going to hurt places like the ski resorts up there. I mean, how are they going to, there's going to be no traffic. It's going to be able to get up there. Yeah, there's some pretty substantial damage. There's widespread mudslides and whatnot covering the roadway. And some of the road is just washed out, and that takes a while to repair. Checking some of the chat here. Yeah, Galloping Gertie. We don't have to worry about that now. Can you imagine? I wonder how many people would be chasing Galloping Gertie as that was happening. But yeah, look at some of the higher terrain, like Stevens Pass, 61 miles an hour. Some of the east slopes of the Cascades, bumping ridge out there. I mean, it is going to be really blowing tomorrow. And if we take a, let's look at the North American model as well. Let's back this up a little bit. You notice it does show some strong winds here across the sound. Again, that would be the, the Kingston Ferry, I believe, right there. Oh, the Mukilteo Ferry is right there. And you can see some of these strong winds across some of the higher terrain of the Olympic Mountains as well. And you see the lack of winds right near Port Angeles. So yeah, a little bit of a lead low there, not nearly quite as strong as what the high resolution model was saying, the high resolution rapid refresh. When we go to the European, let's see this. It shows some wind there as well. And you can kind of see it highlighted. So yeah, that's a little bit of lee low action. If we go back to the 12Z, let's see it. I think it had a little bit stronger. It did have it a little bit stronger. And whenever I see the European calling for 47 for Seattle, that I wouldn't rule out a 50-mile-per-hour gust. So that could really do some tree damage here also. Early estimates saying Highway 2 will not be open until February. Man, that is bad news. That's always a threat when you get major flooding and you get rapid, swift water breaking the banks. You can, flood redirected by rivers. I actually heard some people talking about that as well. I don't know how long it'll be before we actually know the extent, the damages, as far as rivers being redirected and whatnot. That 64 was not for the immediate Whidbey Island area. If I show you that, actually, let's bounce back here and we're just going to go to the high resolution. That 60 there is, it's very close. But that is for the Everett right there. That 64 would be for Everett. And you can see lesser winds for Seattle, but still quite strong. I think there's a very good chance Everett's going to be gusting up over 50 miles per hour tomorrow. Very strong chance, probably 55, 60, not out of the question. And I kind of even wondered if they would put like a localized high wind warning for that area, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to get that fine with it, because 58 miles per hour is the cutoff to where that's a severe wind gust. 58 miles per hour, or it's 1-inch hail or tornado is the general thunderstorm severe threat level. So when you get a high wind warning, they're calling for 58 miles per hour or more, which there is that potential for it, but it's probably too close for them to actually put out a high wind warning. Yeah, and if I drop back down to Oregon, this is for Monday here, but the next system rolling in here also for, let's do this. Let's bounce back out here, and we're going to take a look at portions of Oregon as well. So I want to show you guys the next system rolling in here. And look at the European. I mean, look at some of these winds with that next system. This is actually Tuesday and Tuesday night system right there. Again, some strong winds ripping across the area. Look at that, 50 miles per hour there for, what would that be, Spanaway? And again, big winds across the higher terrain. Look at some of these gusts. There's 101 mile per hour gust. Is that Mount Hood right there? I'm not sure to be exact. I think it might be, but my goodness, some big winds across the higher terrain. Look at Eastern Oregon, Eastern Washington. This is really going to rip across the region. There's going to be some high wind warnings out here. And even the Willamette Valley here, as we go through, what is that? That is for Tuesday night right there. It's about 10 p.m. between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. It's some 50 plus gusts for the Willamette Valley. That's no joke. And then as we go on in through next week, you could see, no, not next week, sorry, end of this week, you can see some really big winds with that powerful pressure gradient. I showed you guys that at the beginning of the video. And this has some really impressive precipitation amounts with it as well. And I'm going to show you some of that here right now. 24-hour running total on the recent European model. So when the system moves in here Tuesday night into Wednesday, you can see Seattle up over, 1.29 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, big amounts across the higher terrain. Now we're looking off in towards the system that comes in on Thursday, and look at what is targeting Western Oregon. This has trended a little bit further south over the last couple of runs, but those are just absolutely wild 24-hour precipitation totals. And also this would have a very high snow level with it as well. So if we bounce out and take a look at upper air temperature and see that 5,000 feet, you can see that at 5,000 feet, a lot of the Cascades of Oregon are above freezing. Yes, we're in for winds and some more flooding potentially this week. And, I don't want, people are like, I've heard a couple of people say this isn't that big of a deal, but this is. Anytime you go into major flood stage, for some of these areas, this is a big deal, especially when you're already damaged and people are already displaced and, there's no time to clean up. That's a miserable experience when you've got floodwaters still, rising again when your home has been damaged or it's been submerged in, a couple feet of water or whatnot. And so if you go back into this major flood category there, this is at 10 p.m. on Tuesday night there for the Mount Vernon, and then again on Thursday at 10 a.m. And also there for the Skagit River at Concrete. I mean, you're going back up into major flood stage again 2 times. And if you go down towards Snohomish, these are still very high crests. At least it's not up towards major this last run, but it's still up towards 27.5 feet. That's still in moderate flood stage. We go back down towards Monroe. It's getting pretty close to major there also. Snoqualmie River Incarnation right there at major. So yeah, we got a long way to go here, folks. And people are trying to clean up. This is not what people need. And this, we can do some more damage and whatnot. And of course, there's always the small and isolated incidents like roads washing out or landslides that we just simply cannot foresee. What's going to happen this upcoming week. Highway 2 is closed. There's going to be tons of traffic coming across I-90 if we have some kind of additional landslide activity there. Or Highway 12, you could really bottleneck one of these passes trying to cross back and forth. You might have to drop all the way down to I-84, which could get hit very hard as well as we go through this upcoming week, as you saw the storm systems that will be impacting portions of Oregon also. Yeah, I've got a little bit of wave stuff here also. So let's take a look at that. When is the peak? I would once you wake up tomorrow morning after sunrise, I would be ready for strong winds up there all the way on in through the early afternoon hours for Everett. So thanks for the generosity, lightning expert. And yeah, I would definitely be ready tomorrow, because it's not out of the question you could gust up towards 60 miles per hour out there, and that's definitely going to down some trees. So the next good set of waves there start to impact Vancouver Island. These are pretty big waves here as we go through the day tomorrow. I mean, that's going to be a nice show there for some of Northwest Washington and all the way down towards Cape Disappointment, some of the Oregon coastline as well. Once you start getting up over 12, 14, 16 footers out there, and these are 18 footers getting pretty close, the significant wave height is going to be much higher than that as well, or the maximum wave height will be higher than that also. But this is good wave watching here tomorrow. So if you want to make a trip out to the coast tomorrow morning, you're going to have some very nice wave watching. Those are some big boys out there. We relax a little bit, but still elevated wave action as we go. And then the next system starts rolling in as we go through Tuesday night. And look at that westerly. That's going to bring some big waves to places like Westport. So yeah, we got a couple good shots of some wave action. And also there's that system as we go through next week. Could bring some locally big waves to the Oregon coast also. Will the weather station reach the roof of a 4-story building? Are you guys talking about mine that I posted? I installed my weather station on a new guy wire pole today. It's 33 feet off my roof, which kind of matches the terrain out in front of my yard. I live on a slope hill. So, but yeah, I set up my weather station. I posted some of that on X. Maybe I could bring that up here really quick. This is what I was doing a little bit here tonight. I got this guy wire set up here. These are actually ropes here now, and I've got a system that's better than the last one. I had a metal pole last time. This is a fiberglass pole, and you can see I've got an RM Young up there. I've got a Tempest down below, and I've got the Davis anemometer right here. I've also got a Davis ultrasonic, and I've got an AccuWeather one, I think it is, that's an ultrasonic 1 second reading also. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anemometers on my roof. These waves are going to be out of the south. So here, let me show you that here. So initially, as we go through the day tomorrow, the winds are going to be, you can see they're even southeasterly across the northwest interior. Southerly winds up and down the Washington coast, southerly winds up the Puget Sound. They do increase as we go through the day tomorrow. And again, kind of southwest, southerly here up towards Bellingham into BC. More westerly across some of the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. You can kind of see them turn quite, almost due westerly as we go on in through tomorrow night. I better hurry up and water my, put your hoses away. You got 2 Tempest weather stations. Nice. Yeah, there's some big rainfall coming for the higher terrain, and we're going to be above freezing also when this first system rolls in here. This is looking at the most recent European model at 5,000 feet. This is the freezing line at 5,000 feet on Monday morning. My goodness, this is a lot of warm air coming in here. In fact, if we look at 10,000, still, I mean, at 10,000 feet, we're just barely below freezing. The good news is that we do have colder air moving into the area. The bad news is the storm system that rolls in as we go through this week might be a little bit on the high side there. So that's going to melt any snow that does fall, or some of it there across Oregon. So Oregon's going to be set up for some flooding possibilities here as well. There was also a big landslide. I forgot exactly where across Western Oregon, but there was recently a big landslide out there also. Yeah, that's a good one too. In the chat there, it says wild that SeaTac couldn't get over 1 inch of rain for almost 2 years just weeks ago. Yeah, and we're going to go over probably another day here with another 24-hour total over an inch. So that's going to be 3 just in the last, week or 10 days or something. And we had one last month as well. So yeah, when it rains, it pours, right? Kurt Kaplan in the house. Welcome, Kurt. If sustained widespread winds are expected to reach 40 miles per hour, then a high wind warning should be issued and or gusts to 58 miles per hour. Yeah, it's 58 miles per hour. Yeah, and if you're sustained at 40 or greater, then there's a really good chance you're going to get gusts 40, or 58 plus, 60 plus. 800 people in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well, and I hope that the flooding is not too bad where you are. I know a lot of people are still dealing with the flooding, especially in some of the Kent, Auburn areas. They're releasing water from the Mud Mountain Dam and Howard Hanson. I saw the White River out there today. It was flowing pretty high, and they're trying to get ready for this next event, trying to keep the dams from being damaged. And they have to, it's always kind of a balancing act between how much risk do we want to take with the dams collapsing versus how much do we want to flood people downstream. Obviously, you don't want to do either of those, but the lesser of the two evils is to kind of deal with the flooding versus the dam failures. It's not a good choice, but you can see all the water that they were kind of kicking off is, flooding 167 in portions of Auburn and Kent. I'm going to close this door here really quick. Yeah, how is it in Falls City there? I see somebody Falls City right now below Snoqualmie Falls. I will be up Friday morning. What's projected wind for the next 3 to 4 days for Lake Stevens? Again, I live where powerless is very common. Here, we'll take a look at that. This is the North American model. This one's high off the presses. And you can see that, of course, near the water and across the Northwest interior, you're going to be higher. It depends on your exact terrain and whatnot, because sometimes people are in sheltered areas. But if you're in a place that gets some pretty good wind, you're probably you could be getting 45 mile per hour gusts up into Lake Stevens if you are in an exposed area or on a favorable hill. Approaching the latest date of recorded date of measurable snow at Crater Lake. Sad times indeed. Yeah, so it's some sobering stuff with how much the oceans have been warming here recently. They absorbed a lot of carbon dioxide that we put into the air, and kind of sucks thinking about it, to be honest. Let's take a look here. I want to see what the North American model is showing here as well. We're going to take a look at if any kind of short term. I want to see what the upper level temperatures do call for. So this is 10,000 feet. And you see, once we go through Monday, you see, we're through Monday morning there, and we start to cool things down at 10,000 feet. As you can see, we start to bring some of that cooler air in aloft, which is a good thing. And then we bring another system in here as we go towards the later portion of the week. But look at that nice slug of cold air moving over us as we go through Wednesday. So we're going to keep the snow levels. They're not going to be nearly as high as they were for the last round. The initial stage of this atmospheric river as we go through tomorrow, they will be pretty high. So if I back that up, you can see this is noon tomorrow. There's 2, 3, 4 p.m. right there. We just start to bring some of these temperatures down towards freezing. So what is that? 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we do bring it down a little bit there for some of the Washington Cascades, but we do warm a little bit back up here as we go through the day Tuesday, and that's going to be bringing additional precipitation amounts. So that's kind of concerning as well. There's going to be a lot of runoff, and yeah, don't like to think about it, but you have to. And if we take a look here, you can see they've got flood watches up again. That's something the National Weather Service in this area tends to do. They won't put out flood warnings for general, broad, big areas from what I've seen. I don't know the exact parameters that they use, but the flood watches, they kind of put these out and then they wait until flooding is occurring, and you'll see some flood advisories or some flood warnings themselves. And this, of course, is because the Green River and the White River down here, that's up towards Mount Vernon right there. But again, we're going to have some flood warnings ongoing here as we go through the next few days, no doubt. Yes, in the Yakima area, you will be getting some of those big gusts also. So you had a 55 mile per hour gust on your Tempest last Wednesday. Very nice. So yeah, big winds coming for Eastern Washington. Look at Spokane National Weather Service. So this is Tuesday PM through Wednesday. high wind watch, potential tree damage, power outages, snow levels dropping in the Cascades, major impacts Tuesday night through Wednesday. Wind advisories also, flood watches for some of the higher terrain, which includes Winthrop, Omak. Ellensburg is under the high wind watch. Yakima is also, if I click on Yakima right there, high wind watch. Let's take a look here. You can see, including the cities of Yakima, Sunnyside, Goldendale, Ellensburg, yada, 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 on down the line. And you can see gusts 55 to 60 miles per hour. That has been showing up on some of these high resolution models. If we take a look at the latest on the high resolution model, rapid refresh, surface wind gust swath. Let's zoom in a little bit here and we'll take a look at those speeds. Again, for those of you who are just joining, actually, sorry, let's do the 0Z so we can go out far enough. For those of you just joining, we've been talking about this off and on, but you can see some of these very strong winds here for some of the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington. Thank you, George. But yeah, I mean, big winds coming in here, folks. Very strong winds. And then we're going to have more as we go on in through Tuesday. It's not picking up those quite yet, but if we look at the European. So this is the first system. Second system as we roll through Tuesday into Wednesday. Big winds coming with a couple of these storms. And if you look at the entire region here over the next 6 days or so, I mean, just very impressive wind speeds across the region. I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle gets it towards 50 again. And some of the higher terrain is really going to get hammered again here. Big impacts incoming. I think that Leavenworth could get, I mean, I know you guys got hammered out there. Anybody out here that was in Leavenworth when that windstorm came ripping through the other night or the other day? Winds are picking up north side of Orcas Island. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. That's 4. What time is it now? We're 8 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Zulu is 8 o'clock here. Yeah, they're picking up. You can see the San Juans are starting to rock and roll here a little bit. Looks like Whidbey Island's starting to get gusty. Winds are starting to pick up on the coast, Vancouver Island, all to western BC. There's the Strait of Georgia. So yeah, it's going to be windy for a while across the northwest interior. Some prolonged winds as we go all the way on in through tomorrow morning. And Seattle gets pretty windy there as we go through 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, noon. There's noon right there, actually. Last Ronin, thank you very much for your generosity. And something else I wanted to look at here as well. I think these were updated. That was not updated since last, so it was 11:39 this morning, so I have to wait probably for tomorrow for that update. Actually, it probably just told me right there. No, it didn't. Okay, so let's take a look here. Landslide risk also. Again, be very careful. Landslide risk. If you don't know the signs, if you see water leaking from hillsides, you see slumping, sloping, trees moving, stuff like that. And that's another thing I've almost forgotten to mention here is the wind actually can help increase landslide risk. It shakes trees and stuff when it's windy. Those trees are rocking and rolling. And you can imagine as the tree rocks and rolls, it uses its root to hold onto the soil. If the soil is saturated, that shaking can create landslides and you can get some pretty big landslides as we've had over the last week or so. We talked about the waves. What did I want to look at there? So the lightning expert, 6 a.m. a good time to wake up to see the strong winds in Everett. Yeah, I mean, if you want to wake up at 6 a.m., you would definitely, it wouldn't be long before it starts to get windy there for sure. Thanks for the generosity, lightning expert. Yeah, that would definitely be in time to see the strong winds. Oh, I wanted to look at national blend of models. We're going to go to precipitation here, and we're going to go to composite reflectivity first. So The rain starts for Seattle. So we're at 4Z right now. That's 8 o'clock. There's 9, 10, 11. Here comes the rain again. The Eurythmics, Annie Lennox. You can see the rain shadowing there to the northeast of the Olympic Mountains, but I'm sure there's going to be some people are probably legitimately going to have PTSD when it starts raining heavily again across some of the foothill areas. River valleys where it's been flooding, and you can see this rain continues on through the day Monday, and it's pretty persistent as well. A little bit of a break here Monday night, but by Tuesday, we start to go into the morning hours, and the next system is already upon us. So, all right, let's look at that here really quick. Let's take a look at the latest, because I know a lot of people want to know, are we going to be dealing with any kind of snow potential? And first, let's have fun with that first. Let's go to the European model here, and we're going to go back to the 12Z data that goes out 15 days, 360 hours. We're looking at 5,000 feet, or approximately 5,000 feet. You can see we get some cooler air here, but when you get this cooler air kind of coming down off Alaska and wrapping around and moving back into the Pacific Northwest, that's spending too much time out over the open ocean. What is our Pacific Ocean? It's a moderating influence. It's fairly warm. So when you bring some of that cooler air aloft, that tends to modify at the surface. So when you bring this in, it's decent for mountain snow, but it's really not going to bring you much in the way of lower elevation snowfall. And we'll talk about Snow Colony Pass here in a moment. Thank you for your basic channel support, member for 8 months. And so you need this Arctic air to take a certain track. It's got to come off southeast Alaska, western BC. You want it to take that short track. You don't want it to spend too much time out over the Pacific Ocean. Otherwise, it modifies, and then you don't get that snow down to sea level. So here we go. We're going all the way on in through the December 17th time frame here. And what you want is this Arctic air here. It's out there. We just got to tap it, and we got to get it down here and take the correct track into the region. So you can see it sags down across some of central BC here. Don't get too excited just yet, because you're looking 7 to 8 days off into the forecast here. But some of the Arctic air tries to get close, although that is still not a great pattern for lower elevation snowfall. But it's at least something. Maybe if you got the right setup, you get some of this to pour down into the region, but it doesn't look like a great setup for lower elevation snowfall. But then again, you can see it's very cold off Alaska, and you can see some of that colder air rushing across the Pacific Ocean towards the west coast of North America, kind of keeping things active. That would definitely keep some troughing going. So it doesn't look great right there. Let's take a look at the GFS now. Here's the latest. Actually, this is riding hot off the presses as we speak. How far does this go out? It only goes goes about 5 days out. But again, all that cold air is bottled up. Northern British Columbia, Northwest Territories, the Yukon portions of Alaska. And there is an artificial intelligence model. I'll show you the European version of that in a moment. There's actually a GFS artificial intelligence model. I think it is going to actually be starting to run here in the next it's already running. I think it'll be more widely available for everybody to see in the next 3 days, but I do have a subscription that allows me to have early access to it. So I'll show you that here in a moment as well. But there's the GFS. Let's back that up to the 18Z data, and let's take a look at the extended forecast. So that's a little bit better for mountain snow here. It's not exceptionally cold, but you can see the Arctic air does drive down into central BC, but you notice it just doesn't get back into western Washington and western Oregon the proper way. So that wouldn't be great for lower elevation snowfall. Then you can see the GFS is a drama queen when you look far enough out in its forecast, and you can see some very cold air. Are we ever going to tap that cold air, man? I don't know. Hopefully at some point in January. Now, let's take a look at the best tool we have, which is the artificial intelligence. So I'm just going to click on this. We're going to look at its ensemble mean here, because this is really the best tool we have. Again, pretty good agreement with the colder air staying bottled up north of us, trying to come into the Pacific Northwest at times, but I mean, it's still not even a high-end setup for mountain snows. And we scroll all the way out towards the end of November. Not a great signal through the month of November for lower elevation snowfall, but I will let you know if that changes. Hanukkah Eve storm. That is correct. Yep. Good observation there. $2 Chuck. Thanks for the generosity. Here's hoping folks can stay safe through these next rounds. You're providing a much needed service, and we all appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much, sir, for your generosity. You guys help this channel stay afloat. I'm near minus 65 inside. We have somebody from Siberia in here. Do you have any favorite meteorologists? Yeah. So when I grew up watching Jeff Renner. So some of you guys might remember him. Also, Rich Marriott was another one. I can remember him. I can remember Rich Marriott and Jeff Renner talking about the 1985 November snowstorm. So I'm dating myself a little bit there, but I've got a lot of experience watching those guys. I loved Harry Wappler. Back in the day, he was on Cairo. But yeah, there were some of my favorites there. I have a lot of storm chasing meteorologist friends also, which kind of leads me to exactly, I'm probably gonna do a video here at some point on my path that I've taken in meteorology. I've taken classes. I've gotten a couple degrees, but not an official degree in meteorology. I've taken a lot of math. I've done a lot of weather training and aviation. I was a flight controller at Island Air in Hawaii and Hawaiian Airlines, and I worked for Alaska Airlines now for the last 18 years, where I do really a heavy amount of forecasting. And I talk to pilots, I plan their flights and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of my background, and I plan on doing a video eventually, because I do get a lot of questions about, what's your background, what career moves have you made, what do you do for your day job. So yeah, I am a forecaster for Alaska Airlines, or a flight controller. We do a lot of meteorological training, and you have to be licensed by the FAA and stuff like that. Scott Sistek's a good guy. I've met him before too. Yes. Yeah, Rod Hill still runs a channel down in Portland as well. That's something. Howling on a full moon. Steve Poole's a good guy. He passed recently. That's sad. That's sad. But yeah, he had a big influence here in the Pacific Northwest as well. Yeah, Andy Wappler, also his son was a meteorologist for Cairo. Also, I forget his first name off the top of my head though. Maybe somebody will remember. Yeah, that was my first job in aviation, was for Island Air in Hawaii. Still Part 121 operation. And that got me some very good experience. I was running many portions of the airline. You're dealing with weather and maintenance, all kinds of stuff. And it really got me pretty good at dispatching. And then I eventually got on with Hawaiian Airlines, and shortly after, Alaska Airlines called. And that's the place I always wanted to work, because I wanted to return home here to Seattle. And that's where I've been for over 18 years now, I believe 2008. So that's, well, yeah, next February will be 18 years that I've been there. And it's been a fun ride. I've been a trainer there. I was a trainer there for many years. And yeah, I've for a long time I've put out like weather briefings and stuff like that, and I would like send out mass emails to people and stuff, and they would ask me questions, and people still come up to me to this day wanting to know if it's going to snow or not, and all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, Alaska Airlines, great place to work. Yeah, the inter island flights on those Dash 800s, that was something else. Yeah, there's all kinds of very technical stuff with approaches into SeaTac. Depending on the wind, you land from the north or land from the south. It's always fun, and you get active weather in the aviation world when you're working a certain airport. Thunderstorms, wind shifts, snow, contamination on the runways. But yeah, so I wish we had a better snow signal through the extended. I guess we could look out at the way up into the forecast here. And what you want to see here is just some kind of, I mean, my goodness, is this going to be just some kind of a record cold period here? A record cold winter for Northwest Canada and Northern Territories, Yukon, Alaska? I mean, share some of the wealth down in your. I mean, the good thing is, as we go through January, at least it's not a very, it's not a warm signal or anything. We do have the below normal. If we look at the 30-day height, that, I mean, you can't really beat that. That's something to look forward to. I mean, that's pretty darn right glorious, actually. If you want some snow here in the Pacific Northwest, that's not a bad base signal as you look out what day, that's days 6 through 36. So that goes all the way on through December 20th through January 19th. So what you're looking at here, again, is about 500 millibars. You're looking at the mid-levels of the atmosphere. You got ridging here. This is, warm air. The ridge comes up, and when we drop back down here, and you get the northerly, northwesterly flow, and you get the troughing here across Western Canada. So there's definitely worse signals that can be had if you're a snow lover here in the lower elevations of the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, I mean, snow removal at SeaTac, when it snows at SeaTac, it's a mess because it doesn't happen often enough for us to get protocols in place where we're just sharp at it every single year. So when it does snow, it's a rare thing. And then you've got logistical complications of rampers and personnel, and then trying to get to de-icing pads or having the de-ice truck come out to certain gates. And it takes a long time. And so you're not pushing a whole bunch of planes out. It takes a while to de-ice planes and to get everybody out there and try to get people to get, to take off, and there's runway contamination and all kinds of stuff. It is a mess at SeaTac. It's not like other airlines where you got multiple de-icing pads and you deal with winter weather all the time. You can go, much of the winter without anything happening, and then all of a sudden at SeaTac it starts snowing and things just fall apart. And it's nobody's fault. The logistics are just extremely difficult to overcome. When does the beckoning be? Yeah, we've been talking about getting some mountain snows in here for a long time, but even this next pattern is not, it's going to get cold at some point across the Cascades. Every year the Cascades get snowfall. So saying that we're going to get snowfall amounts across the higher terrain, it's not going out on a limb. Eventually it's going to happen here. We've just had some people crying wolf a couple times already. So it does look better this round. We're getting a little bit closer to it. But again, if you take a look at the upper level temperature here, we do have some cooler air trying to move in at times. And then you can see it does get cooler as we go through this upcoming week. But even then, we're still dealing with some of that warmer air trying to move in here. Then we get another pattern that's not too bad through hour 144. And then we go to the 12Z data, so we can look a little farther off. And it tries to show some cooler air, but at the same time, you're still getting that battleground here where some warmer air is trying to get back up into the region as well. So yeah, there's no guarantees. It does look more favorable, definitely, when what we've been dealing with here for the mountain snows. But still, this is not one of the bigger snow events the Cascades has ever seen by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, I'm hoping that we get some kind of big winter fest here in the lower elevations, the Pacific Northwest this winter. I'm always down for it. I want the active weather. I know not everybody loves it. The flooding is something else though, and I'll go out and I'll monitor it and I'll do the forecast for it, but it's ugly to watch. Just down the road there from Snoqualmie Falls, there was swiftwater rescues going on, and there was deep water moving at a brisk pace across the roadway, and you see people's, they can't get to their homes, and there's cars swept off the roadway and stuff, and it's a mess. And then when floodwaters retreat, it's not a nice sight. There's all kinds of stuff in floodwaters. I mean, you get septic tanks that overflow, you get sewer systems that get maxed out, and I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. There's gasoline, there's all kinds of toxic stuff in floodwater. So when that touches the walls in your house and sits there for a couple of days, or it's in your property and it hits your belongings, it is a mess. It's hard to clean up. So I know that people that are across the floodplains in the river valleys across, Skagit County and, Snohomish and King County, this is not fun seeing these rivers go all the way back up towards flood stage yet again. I mean, Snoqualmie River near Carnation, this is a pretty big crest coming up here. This is for Wednesday, 4 p.m., and that's a lot of water. Snoqualmie River, it's bumped up a little bit here, moderate. The falls will be raging pretty good. It's not what we did have but it's still it's still, pretty active. And again, if we look at the Skagit River, you can see the last crest, and that was a record crest, just absolutely ridiculous. And these major flood stage crests are still a big deal. So Snoqualmie Pass. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Yeah, let's go ahead and update this to the 18Z. So this is snow depth, and we look at it right now. You can see it's pretty sparse. Like I was at Snoqualmie Pass a few days ago, filming some of the flooding up there, and there was virtually nothing on the slopes. Absolutely nothing. And you can see it's not going to get better as we go through the day tomorrow. It starts to bounce back a little bit there, but again, we're going to drop below freezing for some of the time. Or we're going to go above freezing again on Tuesday. So then we go off in towards the mid portion of this week, and finally we start to get some snowfall here. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here because we got specifically asked about Snoqualmie Pass. There's Snoqualmie Pass right there. So by the time we get to Saturday late morning, you're starting to get to the pink right near the white. You could have 1.5 feet, maybe 20 inches of snow on the ground for Snoqualmie Pass, maybe Alpental, maybe there. It's not a lot, but it's something. And this is snow depth in inches. You're going to see other people posting stuff like this. People that post 10-to-1 snowfall maps, they should get your hand slapped for posting that stuff. But this shows what could fall over the next 6 days or so for Snoqualmie Pass. But again, you can probably cut that amount in half of what's actually going to be on the ground. So probably closer to 17 inches or so. Kuchera ratio, this takes into account some of the lower elevations of the atmosphere based on snow ratio, water equivalent. I have a friend who has a specialty job of exhuming bodies from flooded areas. Ouch. Yeah. The ugly side of the weather. Snoqualmie Pass safe to drive next week. Well, as you can see, you are going to be getting some snow at times as you go through this upcoming week. And the problem is there's no passage on Highway 2. If you're just joining, Highway 2 has been washed out in places. There's been widespread mudslides, debris flows across the roadway, trees blocking stuff. So they may not be open until February. It might be 2 months or more before Highway 2 is open. What does that mean? That everybody's going to be coming down to I-90. So there's going to be increased traffic for I-90. Highway 2, again, closed. And with the stuff coming up here again, I worry about potential landslide activity for I-90 as well. Highway 12 is further down here. So I believe what Highway 12 crosses right in here, Mount Rainier's White. So White Pass is going to be getting snowfall also. I mean, yes, you will be getting snowfall at Snoqualmie Pass and at White Pass. Probably better amounts for White Pass. If we take a look here, you can see we've got White Pass right there. And this is 10-to-1. I don't like to show that too much, but you can see as we go through this week, definitely some accumulating snowfall for White Pass coming up pretty consistently in the model runs there. Again, the Cascades, it's one of the snowiest places on Earth. It's held some of the all-time record snowfall. Mount Baker and Mount Rainier have shared that record over the last few decades for most snow in a season. So bringing snow to the Cascades, it's a virtual guarantee every single year. Yeah, Highway 20 closed seasonally already due to snow. Thursday afternoon, Snoqualmie Pass, 5 p.m.-ish. There's about 4 p.m. right there. You can see it's going to be wintry driving back and forth across the pass there, and there's going to be a lot of traffic moving back and forth. So, yeah, what would be the best day for travel? Man, I don't know. It's a pretty active period coming up here. If you don't mind dodging the landslides, it's probably best to cross on the day tomorrow, honestly, when the snow levels are still high. Yeah, I heard somebody tried to kayak through the locks or something too, and one of them was killed. Aquachunk in the house, welcome. I think I keep forgetting to show that. So there we go. So, okay, so let's take a look at precipitation total. Let's run through the totals here on the recent National Blend of Models. This one was run at 7 p.m. tonight. The rain starts. Let's see, when does Seattle get its first rain? They're about midnight tonight, so it might be starting to rain out there a little bit already. Scroll on in towards Monday afternoon. There's 4 p.m. right there. And so you look what's happening here over the next 24 hours. We're already getting big amounts again across the higher terrain. Not too bad in the rain shadowed areas, but of course, it really matters what falls across the Cascades. That's going to be running back into the rivers and whatnot. We'll scroll back on here. Now we'll go all the way on in towards Tuesday afternoon. There's Tuesday, 4 p.m. Seattle gets up towards an inch, and you can see big amounts across the higher terrain. Of course, that will be coming down into the rivers and whatnot. And again, there's going to be landslide concerns. This is Wednesday afternoon. There's Thursday afternoon. There's Friday afternoon. There's Saturday afternoon right there. I mean, some huge amounts coming in here. You see rain shadowing on the leeward sides of the Cascades there also. Five a.m. commute, Vashon. Well, I mean, I think that early you'll probably be okay, but I would definitely, I know it's hard because you got tall trees just surrounding you. There's not really much you could do. If one of them tries to fall on you, there's really not much you can do. You almost have to just not go if you're really that worried about it. Starting to rain in Portland. Light misty rain in Seattle. Yeah, the 1972 season for Mount Rainier. And then Mount Baker broke it, I believe, what was it, 1999, I want to say. Yeah, let me know if anybody out there is getting any PTSD from the rainfall coming here. It's no joke. It's a stressful time for people that are living in flooded areas. Yeah, I'll probably be chasing at some point this week. A lot of chat coming in here. Let's see. Could this be a potentially super low snow year for ski area? It could be, but it doesn't. It still looks like we're going to be below normal as we go through January. This is what the latest weeklies have. And you can see as we go through the month of January, this is not a bad signal as we go. This is from December 20th to January 20th. This is a La Nina pattern. So La Nina probably hanging on with us at some, on in through January here. Not a bad signal. So I wouldn't say that we're like set for having a bunch of the passes below normal snowfall or anything. There's time. We will get some snow in the Cascades. I'm pretty confident in that. This is not snow that would be on the ground. This is a 10-to-1 ratio. There'd be melting and compressing and whatnot. So can we look forward to filming your bright lights shining into flooded homes? I'm taking it that's not considered a good thing. There's Crystal Mountain, for example. As you go through the day on Tuesday, it looks like it finally changes over to snow for Crystal Mountain. This is right there. There's 12Z. That's about 4 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Yeah, don't these 10-to-1 ratio snowfall, not good. So if we go back, let me show you an example here. We'll go back to the European. Here's 24-hour. Actually, we'll do 10-to-1 inch ratio here. And you can see this. If you don't know what you're doing and you're just looking at these maps, you're like, oh my gosh, look at this. We're going to get snow into the lower elevations up in Snohomish County and yada, yada, yada. And we're going to get 4 feet of snow across the higher terrain. If you don't know what you're doing, that's what you might say. What you want to look at is positive snow depth changed in inches is better, or snow depth. You want to see what's on the ground at the time. So you can kind of see how, you know, a lot of times you'll get some lower elevation snow mixing in and stuff like that, or it might even stick for a little bit, or it's kind of melty, it's melting as it falls. And sometimes the models include that in their 10-to-1 or Kuchera snowfall ratios. It's always better to kind of keep yourself in a reality check by looking at actual snow depth. It continues to show some potential with some of that colder air moving in as you go through Wednesday afternoon. You might get some lower elevation into the foothills there across some of Skagit, Snohomish County, and whatnot. But it's not going to be a big deal down into the lower elevations of I-5 and whatnot. Well, the European artificial intelligence has just been showing the best overall score verification scores. Thanks for the kind words. Christmas Day in SoCal. Oh, it's probably gonna, I can guarantee it won't be snowing in the lower elevations. Check back tomorrow in tomorrow's video. When will I be I'll probably go out at some point tomorrow. I'll probably do something with the wind, or I will do maybe some flooding stuff. I'm not sure. I want to go up and ride the ferry tomorrow morning, which I may still yet do, but I will probably have to wrap up this live stream so I can finish my stuff and go to bed early if I want to get up early enough to go out there and check out the wind. Let's see here. So if you look at the Nooksack, for example, it's an action stage, but it came out of moderate, and it's not looking too bad. For example, the Nooksack at Ferndale right now. But check back on that. We'll check back on that as we go through tomorrow, because these forecasts change quite a bit, and there is a lot of rainfall coming for these areas. So do check back. Strongest winds are going to be across some of the higher terrain, the Cascades, east slopes of the Cascades, some of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon as well. And I know Panhandle, western Montana is going to get really windy also with this setup. You can see on the North American model, their system number 1 sliding by to our north, and that pressure gradient impressive. There goes Tuesday's system into Wednesday. That one looking like a bit of a beast, and that is going to bring some big winds. You're probably going to get some places that are gusting up over 90, 100 miles per hour on the exposed ridges and some of the mountain areas and whatnot as that one rips through. Yes, they will close down ferries because of high winds and big wave activity. So that's always a risk you take if you want to go out there and try to ride the ferries during the strong winds. Hope you don't get seasick also. So if we take a look at that surface wind and we go to wind swath, 10 miles per hour, and we scroll through here all the way on in towards Wednesday, look at some of these winds that come as you go through Tuesday night into Wednesday. This is going to be a potentially high impact storm for portions of the Cascades east. I mean, look at these speeds. My goodness. You're talking about widespread 60 plus mile per hour gusts for a wide area of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon. That, man, that might even get me out there to chase. I don't know. I try to get one of those exposed ridges or something. That is wild. You're going to be somewhat rain shadow there for Whidbey Island also. Well, the National Weather Service likes to be a little bit cautious when they issue things. You know, they don't want to cry wolf, which is natural and it's understood. But at the same time, I do feel like occasionally they may wait a little bit too long. And but they did a good job. Like this wind advisory was up in fairly decent order. So I mean, you know, who am I to judge? I'll call them out if they're not doing something right at the same time. And I always give the National Weather Service offices praise, as you've probably heard in my daily videos. Like anytime I see them doing a good job, I call it out and point it out immediately. There was some concern from an online blogger, not a professional forecaster, about flood watches that should have been flood warnings earlier. But they are, you know, it's kind of understood that when you're under a flood watch here in Western Washington, you have the potential, you know, it should be taken seriously. And eventually, you know, it could become a flood warning depending on where you are. But yeah, the flood watches are up. And if I click on that, you can see excessive rainfall continues to be possible here. Monday morning through Thursday afternoon, excessive runoff may result in flooding of rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying flood-prone locations. They may rise out of their banks, poor drainage in urban areas also as well. Let's see, what else? And of course, a landslide and debris flows are going to be possible. And you can see this includes, you know, all up and down Western Washington. Yeah, Montana, huge winds incoming also. Yeah, man, the NAM is bringing the hammer. My gosh. But yeah, this first system, look at across some of the Rocky Mountains there. Woo, there's 105-mile-per-hour gusts. That means there's probably going to be some locations gusting up over 120 miles per hour. Oh, yeah, I've heard those predictions from some of the weather bloggers out there. Yeah, big swing and a miss on that last one, but eventually some snow will come for the mountains, and hopefully it is this week. It looks like it will be this week. You know, not as big as it amounts as the Cascades can get, but yeah. Yeah, that those big winds really start across Oregon, Washington Cascades there as we go through. That is for Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night. Some strong winds across the Willamette Valley with that also. You could get some gusts towards 50 for Portland with that. And again, for some of Western Washington as that system moves through. And then, man, widespread 55, 65 mile per hour. There's definitely going to be high wind warnings, Cascades East. That's right. How do you pronounce that? Siletz River Highway, Oregon. That's where that landslide was. Well, we're getting the subtropical jet is so active because we're getting this troughing out here. And again, we got this ridge that's kind of been dominating the weather here in California. So that kind of helps steer this very moist flow out of the southwest. And the previous one was more out of the west southwest here. That's stretched all the way back across the Pacific Ocean. This one, as you can see, straight from the Hawaiian Islands. Yeah, things can still change. I mean, Christmas is still 11 days away. Anything can happen 11 days out in a forecast. Anytime tomorrow morning after sunrise, it's already starting to get windy across some of the northwest interior. So the wind advisory goes into effect 10 p.m. tonight, which is a good timeline to kind of base that on. And I would expect strong winds as you go through tomorrow morning, perhaps peaking on in through the early afternoon. Thanks everybody for joining tonight. Pretty active chat. Crazy stuff coming up here. See if we got an update there. We did. Not much changed. Oh, look at that high risk there for some of California for heavy precipitation. How about a wet Christmas there for the entire state of California? Ooh, high risk for some risk of heavy snow. Also nice. The Sierra Nevadas definitely need it. Depends on where you are, Joanne, November. That looks the same. Yeah, looks like Northern California, you're going to be getting active here also. In fact, let's take a look at that. We'll take a look at the most recent European artificial intelligence. There goes our atmospheric river, shot 1. There's the next system comes rolling through here. There goes that system as we go through Thursday. 1, 2, 3, punch. And that one is going to, I mean, that one has big impact potential there for Western Oregon. And that one kind of bounces around a little bit as well. So really got to watch that one for Western Oregon for some flooding concerns there. Then it starts to really take aim at Northern California, Central California, pushes the system through. What happens after that? And that could target Southern California. Maybe some Christmas Day stormy action there for Los Angeles. Who knows? And hopefully eventually we'll get some cold air in here. Thanks, Milepost 3926 for the kind words. But yeah, you'll be able to watch that barometer drop pretty well here. Let's go back to this and we'll go to pressure and we'll go to mean sea level pressure. Let's do the European, in fact. Yeah, for example, if you are in Seattle, your barometer, as you can see, as we go through the day tomorrow, it will be falling. Falling as you go through Monday morning. And then it will start to rise again as we go through Monday afternoon. Tomorrow, you can kind of see the pressure rise behind that. So that's where you'll see that dip in your barograph, which means the passage of that storm, the low pressure center as it passes by to our north. And then as we go through the next system, look at that. As we go through the day on Tuesday, barometer starts to fall again. You're going to see another dip in your barograph if you have one of those. And look at that, some pretty low pressure there, 996, 995 millibars for Seattle. Deep low moves by to the north. Powerful pressure gradient to the south of that. And then you can see why it's going to be so darn right windy. Big pressure rises here as this system races across the Rocky Mountains. That's where those big winds are going to come from. That's why the NAM was going crazy with some of those winds. If we take a look here, let's go to 2,500 feet. Man, that's some big time wind coming across the region. That system that comes through on Tuesday night and through Wednesday, that is going to be packing a punch. That's at 925. Let's look at 5,000 feet. Yeah. And then that next system up for portions of Western Oregon, Western Washington. Is there any relation to low barometric pressure and tides? Well, when you have low pressure, the sea level will rise. So yeah, you can imagine the column of the atmosphere is pushing down on the sea or the ocean out there. And when you get lower pressure, you're not pushing down as much. You have less. That's why it's called low pressure. And then you get the rise in the sea level because of that low pressure. So it can actually exacerbate, king tides. When you get a big storm and you got king tides, you got low pressure, there's going to be a bulge in the sea level already. And then you got big waves and then you got king tides. So it can get really crazy. You can bring the Tempest station with you. Sure. You can take it to a vacation home in the mountains and set it up there also. You probably just have to reset it each time you do so, because it gets its location. You punch in your location, that it will talk to other stations around you. So then if you move it, you probably do have to reset the app and stuff. I don't know. I don't think it's that hard, but it's just kind of a little bit of a pain in the behind. Yeah, that's good information as well. 1 drop of millibar pressure will increase the sea level by about 1 centimeter. So let's look at the European on the wind, the surface wind speed here. There's the first one. Go through the day on Tuesday and look at that. I mean, the European's calling for it as well. Those are some pretty big gusts on the European model. Look at the Oregon Cascades just light up as we go from Tuesday night to Wednesday morning. Big time winds rolling through. So yeah, that second system, we will watch that again tomorrow morning in the briefing. The Great Lakes have little baby tides because of barometric pressure gradients. Interesting. Yeah, hopefully the Mariners can do it next year. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna wrap up the weather chat now, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I'll try to do my normal briefing tomorrow. I'll do it at some point tomorrow. I'm just not exactly sure when. If I have to leave too early in the morning, I may not do it tomorrow morning. I'll wait till the afternoon. But otherwise, thanks for joining. I hate leaving the chat when there's still 700 people in here, but I got to wrap some things up. And actually came home from my son's soccer game and I grouted my entire shower after I did my weather station. So pretty tired. I should probably hit the bed a little bit early tonight. So anyway, hopefully you guys had a good chat here. And what else? I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.